Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our Tableau series where we're showing you how to create our sample workbooks that Tableau gives us. And in today's session, we're going to be making the commission model that we see in front of us. This one is a bit more advanced than some of our other dashboards that we're going to create. And so we're going to do our best to give you our interpretation of how they created this workbook. So let's jump over to our workbook here. And we have been using the sample superstore data source to create the other dashboards. But for this one, we're actually going to use our sales commission data source, which is a text file, a CSV. And you can find this file located down below the video in the description. We should have it linked for you to download. And you just want to connect to Tableau using this data source, and you should have these 4 fields, because when we go into sheet 1, what we're actually going to do for the beginning portion of the video is just creating the fields that we're going to be using to create our dashboard. And so this starts with our parameters. We're going to want to create 6 parameters to use in our dashboard. And so the way you create parameters is if I was to go over to this drop-down menu, and then I can click create parameter. The first parameter that we're going to make is our base salary parameter. And so for this workbook, we're going to be looking at a lot of performance data for our employees, which are salespeople who are selling our product, and we're trying to get an idea of their performance based on the quotas that they have to meet. And so this is just one of the parameters that we're going to be adding. For this parameter, it's going to be an integer data type, and the current value that we want it to be at when we step into the workbook is at 50,000. So I can simply just type 50K, and Tableau will already know what I'm trying to say. So I'm just going to leave it at 50K. And then for our display format, the base salary is going to be in a currency with 0 decimal places. And lastly, our range of values is going to be have a minimum and a step. So the minimum is going to be 0. And we want to take a step size of 1,000. So I can just type 1K, and I'll click OK to finish this parameter. Now, after we create the parameter, you can see that it jumps down here to the bottom of our data pane in its own section, the parameter section. We can make this a little bit bigger, but we're going to be adding 5 more. So let's continue on with our other parameters. To create a new one, we simply bring down that drop-down menu. This parameter is going to be called new quota. And so this parameter, for example, is going to be allowing us to set the quotas that these salespeople have to meet. And so because parameters allow you to make the data more dynamic, it will allow us to then be able to forecast or project the performance of our employees based on the quotas that we're going to set for them. It's giving us kind of a look into what might happen. So the data type for this parameter is going to be an integer as well. And our current value when we open the workbook is going to be 500,000. Going to set the format to a currency of 0 decimals. And we have a range of values starting with the minimum. The minimum quota is going to be 100K with a step size of 25K. Okay, perfect. Once you have this configured, we can click OK. And now we see our second parameter has joined the data pane. Okay, let's create our third parameter. And this one's going to be called commission rates, right? For salespeople, obviously, they make a base salary, but then they also make commission off of the sales that they have. So we have to be able to adjust for this as well. This one's actually going to be a float data type, so we can leave it just as it is. And then for this for this parameter in particular, we're going to have to kind of trick Tableau because we want it to be a percentage, but we also want it to act like a number because we're going to move it along a scale. And so what I'm going to do is type 18.4 here because that's what we want it to start at. But instead of a percentage, we're actually going to make this a custom number with 1 decimal place. And then in the suffix, we're going to put our percentage symbol. That way, for our user, they see it as a percentage. And so I'll click out of this. And then we want a range of values. The range is going to be from a minimum of 1, a maximum of 100, and then a step size of 0.1. And leave it at fixed. So what we should see, oh, looks like this went back. So it should be 18.4. And then, yeah, so you should make sure that it's at 18.4 for the current value with the following step size or range of values. And then we'll click OK. So we have 3 parameters made, and we just need 3 more. This next one is going to be called new business growth. Right, just another one of those variables that we want to be able to forecast or project going forward. So this is going to be a float variable, and our current value is going to be at 0.6, which is going to be shown as a percentage with 0 decimal places. So it should be 60%. This may change when we put in our range of values, so we'll just have to make sure that we adjust. So our minimum is going to be 0. And our maximum is going to be 1, and our step size will be 0.01. And we'll leave it at fixed. Yeah, so it looks like this went back to 1 when I changed the range of values. So make sure that it goes back to 0.6 and make sure it goes back to 60%. There you go. We'll click OK. And we'll make our 5th parameter, which is going to be churn rate. Right, one of those internal numbers that we have to control for if we're going to forecast our performance of the salespeople. So this is going to be a float data type with a current value of 0.064. And this is going to be shown as a percentage with 2 decimal places. That way we can see 6.4%. And for our range of values, we're going to start at a minimum of, let's see here, minimum of 0. And we have a maximum of 0.25. And then a step size of 0.001. Okay, leave it fixed and we'll click OK. But just make sure that you have it at 0.064, even after you change the range of values. And we'll click OK. And our last parameter is going to be called sort by. And this will allow us to sort the salespeople by by whatever field we want. There's 3 different fields that we're going to be working with. So for this data type, it's actually going to be a string. And it's going to be a list of values. And so we're going to type in exactly what those values are. So it's % quota, ascending, perfect. And then it's % quota, descending. And then lastly, for our parameter, we're going to add names. So there's 3 different types of parameters that we have set for this particular parameter. So then for our current value, we always want it to go back to names whenever we open the workbook. That's what it's going to default to. Current value is fine, and it looks like we can leave everything else and accept all the defaults, so we'll click OK. And so now we have all 6 of our parameters, and our next task is to generate calculated fields using these parameters. That way, when we use our parameters in our dashboard, they actually help us forecast or project the numbers that we want. So let's move on to that.